Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave with Core Productions with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about the original Quantum Leap, Season 4, Episode 14, titled The Last Gunfighter. The episode's description reads as follows. Sam leaps into an elderly man who likes his whiskey and tells his tall tales. His former partner and fellow gunfighter shows up, wanting recognition and revenge. The episode has a teleplay by Sam Rolfe and Chris Rupenthal, and this is an interesting way. Rupenthal, yeah.
I know that name.
So yeah, it's interesting that they have teleplay by both of these writers instead of written by. That's different for this series. But Rolfe has 51 writing credits, including writing for Star Trek Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. This is his only work on this series. He died on July 10th, 1993 at the age of 69. Rupenthal, of course, was responsible for the episodes whose name I cannot mention because it's a curse word.
The Halloween episode?
The Halloween episode.
Whoa.
It's a curse word amongst the fandom, and has a couple more episodes this season to go before he's done. The episode was directed by Joe Napolitano. He also happens to have been responsible for the other show I recorded this week, the X-Files Season 1, Darkness Falls, so I found that kind of amusing. And Rupenthal, he wrote another episode of the X-Files that I'm going to be talking about soon as well. And of course it's not going to drop for like a month because I've been doing a bunch of these like in advance now, kind of like what we're doing with our Halloween movies. But yeah, the episode takes place on November 28th, 1957, and originally aired on January 29th, 1992. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple things when this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Core Productions, where additional content can be discovered both Quantum Leap related and otherwise. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. Okay, so Stacie, last week, you mentioned that you had noticed that I'd been doing a lot of solo work because in my spiel, there was a lot of me's and I's instead of us and, so on and so forth. Well, what's really funny about that is when I record some of those solo efforts, I'll be like,
you said us and ours?
Yeah. And I'll say, like, this is Dave and Stacie signing off when you're not involved at all. But all right, so...
You get used to the things that you say a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like at work, I rely on muscle memory. I kind of rely on voice memory, if that makes any sense, to avoid tripping over things. All right, shout-outs this week's Jessie Targum. She thanked me for her birthday shout-out. She also mentioned I just could have mentioned her age. It wasn't that big of a deal. I will say that she is a couple years older than us, but she's pretty close to us in age.
Yeah, sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And Ashley Wright, he actually commented on the Running for Honor podcast. He said, in response to my whole talking about media that featured gay and lesbian issues at the time, he mentions a TV series in the UK called EastEnders. And he says, I'm sure they had a gay kiss in the late 80s. Also, there's a TV show called Brookside. I'm sure that they had a lesbian kiss in the mid-90s. And all right, so when I was talking about that, I was specifically talking about U.S. media because I was referring to U.S. attitudes in relation to the community at the time. But it would be interesting to me to hear about what attitudes were like in other countries as well. Was it the same, or was it worse, better? Who knows? I think in some cases it would definitely be worse, like maybe in the Middle East, for instance.
Yeah.
But there was also probably some places that were better than the U.S. at that time.
Right.
So I don't know if you have any comments about that. I would be more than interested in hearing that. Mimi Gallup, she says that the oldest person that Sam leaped into was in the last gunfighter. She's correct. I believe this person was 82.
It's in my notes somewhere.
We'll get
Al says it.
We'll get
He's
to
80 something.
80 something.
82.
The youngest person was the 13-year-old boy in Runaway. She pointed out that the psychic in Leaping In Without a Net also sensed Al. That's also true.
That is true.
She suggested that maybe Al was jealous of Tamlin. She basically said Al was jealous. I'm not sure what he was jealous of, but perhaps maybe his reactions in Running for Honor was because there was a little bit of deeper feeling going on here than we were led to believe. At the very least, that's Al's logic in Running for Honor. But no, I don't actually think that. But yeah, that's an interesting point. And she said our last podcast was good and can't wait for the next one. She usually says great, so our work was not as good as usual. Of course, that's not what she means, but
No, she tells us every week that we did a great job.
Yeah, but this week she only said we did a good job.
We appreciate it all.
No word on Alpha this week, probably because he's too busy being a doctor, a long distance runner, and an astronaut.
There we go.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is to make that joke specifically. All right, so Stacie, your thoughts?
Is he a gunfighter too?
Maybe.
Maybe he does Wild West reenactments.
He could let us know if he does. That'd be pretty cool. If he tells me that, I'm definitely gonna want to get it on the channel and do an interview. But all right, so Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
All right, so I know a lot of people love this episode because it was exciting to do the Western episode, and I know the people who made it loved it because they wanted to do a Western episode, and they were proud of themselves for figuring out how to tweak the rules, even though without breaking any rules, how they fit this in. Just because of the timing of it. I mean, it was never a great one for me. I don't care about Westerns. As we talked about a little bit last week, and I didn't actually put any of this in my notes, so I don't think I have anything specific new to say about it, but, we mentioned last week that this just feels so familiar, and it feels so similar to other modern Western episodes.
Specifically, we brought up Sliders. Right,
there's an episode of Sliders, which is very similar, like the same thing, the kid gets the gun, and it's that whole shebang, and, the Quantum Leap Revival did sort of the same thing, where the teenage girl takes the grandfather's gun, and it just feels kind of tropey, right? At this point. But also, among those three, this was the first, yes?
Basically.
So were they all copying this?
Perhaps.
Or is that just already tropey at this point when Quantum Leap did it?
I mean, each and every single one of these episodes is taking from the Westerns and the tropes from the Westerns.
We're taking, we're doing a modern Western, but I mean specifically like those specific plot points that make these three episodes feel so similar.
Right. I mean, specifically,
I don't know Westerns enough to know what other places have done that specific plot line.
Now, I would say that this is an okay episode. It's decent. It's mainly carried in my eye from the performance of John Anderson, who, of course, played Sam's former partner. Mm-hmm. He's a very compelling figure in this episode. He's a very compelling actor. He showed up on a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode at one point. I think he ends up carrying this episode for me. He makes it worth watching. Despite some
great interactions and some great stuff in this episode. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I told you I was going to do this, is something about the show La Brea, which there's no connection. I mean, I'm not saying there's a La Brea connection, but the last time I watched this episode, The Last Gunfighter, was in early 2023, and on March 7th, last year, 2023, I made a tweet, because I just watched this episode, and it's when, my husband was watching Quantum Leap. He did his very first playthrough. We finished it last year. So we watched this episode during his playthrough. Something about this little boy, Stevie Means, played by Sean Baca, something about that child was so reminiscent to me of the girl, Izzy, on La Brea.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't actually grab the actress's name here, so I apologize for that. I don't have her name, but the girl that plays Izzy, and that was her first acting role, by the way. She wasn't an actress. That's her very first role on La Brea. And I don't know, something about those two actors is just so... It's such an uncanny resemblance to me. Which feels weird to say.
Yeah.
But I put that tweet up, and I'm going to have you share that on our video version.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying how much watching this reminds me of Izzy. Obviously, Izzy came later, but, the recollection in my head came at the point where I was watching Stevie and how much he reminded me of Izzy. And it's not even that, like, they look identical. I mean... we're two different genders, they're different ages by a few years, but just something in their mannerisms, the way they talk, and the way that they, give their lines, I don't know, something hit me that I had to go tweet about it. And I don't think I got any feedback, and I was so curious if anybody knew what I was talking about, if anybody had seen both of these things and could tell me if I was crazy or not. But watching it again, I was reminded of this tweet that I read, and I was like, yeah, it's just something about it.
Did they end up turning up to be related?
I mean, they could.
Yeah.
I mean, these two series could totally be in the same universe. They both involve time travel.
Hmm.
It's possible that maybe. Oh, you meant the actors, but no, maybe Stevie is a descendant of Izzy's mom. Couldn't be Izzy's dad. Don't want to get too spoilery on La Brea, but it couldn't be dad.
Right.
But yeah, maybe Izzy's mom is Stevie's granddaughter or something.
Maybe. All right, do we have anything else?
But no, you meant the actors, and I do remember looking at that at the time, and I didn't find anything. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not possible, but I didn't find it if it was. But yeah, I just saw something in that, and please, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, or if anybody wants to dig deeper into these the question here, I'd love some opinions. Am I crazy, or does anybody else see the resemblance between these characters?
Gotcha. All right, do we have anything else to say before diving in?
Let's see. The only other note I have right here is the fact that this takes place in Coffin, Arizona. Coffin, of course, is a fictional town, but it is definitely a play on words to the real life Tombstone, Arizona.
Gotcha.
Which, of course, is where a lot of those Wild West, like real life things took place.
There's even a movie called Tombstone.
Yeah, I mean it's like a tourist town now. You can go and like it is this town. If this town was real, that's what they're referring to.
Gotcha.
Is where they decided to double down on their history and make it a touristy thing, which is definitely what's happening here.
Yep.
Even though we're in the 50s, so it's another layer to it there. But yeah.
All right, so diving in on this.
Let's dive into the last Gunfighter.
All right, when we come... Oh, well, actually, I'm skipping way ahead. Okay, so the episode begins with Sam seemingly finding himself in the West battling the Claggett boys. He faces off against the last one, and he ends up saying, oh boy. Pretty sure this is Otis, played by Joseph Burke.
That's that's what I came to. It's funny because they never named this.
Right.
A couple people in this, they didn't tell us who they were.
Right.
But I figured it's him because he was credited in the last episode. And
because
he appeared in the Leap Out. So he's got to be Otis.
So it's 27 credits for him, including an episode of Charlie's Angels, Matlock, and Knight Rider.
Ooh, I got him also for Dukes of Hazzard, an episode of A-Team.
So yeah, he was quite visible around that time frame.
One of those character actors. And yeah, he told Sam, you killed my brothers. This town ain't big enough for the two of us. They're gonna have a shootout. Does Sam think he's in the Old West? Does he think he landed in the 1800s? Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's just totally confused as to what is going on here. But yeah, I mean, if he was in the West, I think he would be more concerned. If he was during that time frame.
He looked pretty concerned to me.
Oh, I mean, yes.
He's like, I'm fired. He goes, he's got this gun in his hand. Somebody just apparently died, fell off a balcony. What's happening right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he leaped into the middle of what appears to be a shootout, so I would be pretty concerned, too.
Yeah.
When we come back from the credits, Sam is trying to talk his way out of the fight, but then ends up somehow miraculously winning.
Yeah, the other man is shot, and Sam starts apologizing, because he thinks he just, killed somebody. Oh, did the gun go off? I didn't shoot the gun, but I'm sorry. What happened?
And then it turns out to be a reenactment. The crowd classroom, as I believe Russ announced the end of the performance. Russ is played by O'Neill Compton, if I got this right.
Yeah, this is the bartender.
Yeah.
And I also came to the conclusion he must be the character Russ.
Right.
But it's funny because the sheriff's name is also Russ.
That's played by a different actor.
Right. So there was some weirdness in the credits here, and I feel like somewhere along the line something was wrong.
Right, probably.
In IMDb, in every place that's I'll get to that when we talk about the other characters. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the character that's titled Russ.
38 credits for him, including an episode of Home Improvement, Dream On, and Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
It's funny, we're picking up entirely different things this time around. He was in 2 episodes of Seinfeld, an episode of Party of Five. He was in the movie Deep Impact. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
I like that movie.
Yeah, it was good. He signs a couple of autographs, and then we meet his host's grandson, Stevie and Lucy. Steve is played by Sean Baca, as you mentioned already. He was in a movie called Radio Flyers with Elijah Wood, an episode of Home Improvement, and 10 episodes of The Wonder Years.
All right, we got the same ones on that one.
Okay, 15 credits for him. We didn't have much to choose from there. Lucy is played by Susan Isaacs.
Susan Isaacs.
51 credits for her, still acting today. She was in an episode of Beep, an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which was a credit that I was like, really? It kind of confused me a little bit. And an episode of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Lots of Lois and Clark actors in this one.
We're so off this time. This is weird. She was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Okay.
Which is a great Thanksgiving
Yes,
movie. Maybe
absolutely.
we can fit that into our fall lineup.
We definitely discussed that at one point.
She's also in Scrooge.
I do have that note in my here.
Which
Yes, which is another
one we might talk about.
if it becomes available
come
in time.
December, if we can find it.
Yeah.
She was in a movie, War of the Roses. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I've heard of it.
I
That's
feel
with
like I watched
Michael.
it in school.
That's like with Michael Douglas, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
But you know what else she was? She was in an episode of Quantum Leap. Besides this.
Oh yeah, she was also in Heart of a Champion. That's also a note I have.
She played Myra Samus in Heart of a Champion. And I don't remember who that is. Is that the girlfriend?
I don't know. Could be the
wife,
possibly.
The brother's wife?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think that's what I meant when I said girlfriend.
Right. So,
I think I was confusing it with the other wrestling episode.
Right.
Or the other, never mind.
Yep, I got you.
Before we got to them, though, you said he signed autographs. We met the little girl, Cindy. I want to hit on her real quick. Cindy was the little girl asking for Sam's autograph.
Yes.
She was played by Bonnie Morgan, who, this was just the beginning of her career. She was 8 years old or something. But you know who she is? She played Samara.
Oh.
Not in the original, The Ring, but in The Ring 2 and in Rings, which is the prequel.
Okay.
She was Samara.
But she was not Samara in the first one?
Right.
Which was not the original, because the original one was...
The Ringu.
Right.
Yeah. But no, in The Ring 2 and Rings, she played Samara. She's a contortionist.
Okay.
And her IMDb picture is pretty interesting looking.
Interesting, because Carla Mack is also a contortionist as well. Yes, she
I don't think you've told me that.
No, I probably have not mentioned that, but yeah, she is. She sent me pictures of her sleeping weird and all bent up, and
I don't care about that.
I know. But anyway,
Bonnie Morgan was also in an episode of Them, that's a current series, and she was in an episode of Star Trek Discovery.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, she just asked for an autograph, and that was her role.
It's funny, she got the autograph, but she's not getting it from the person that she actually wants it from.
No, and I'm curious, what's that autograph look like? And this isn't the only time Sam gives somebody's autograph.
Right. Glitter Rock, I think, probably.
Right, Glitter Rock,
yeah.
And maybe even what's the blind piano man?
Blind Faith.
Blind Faith.
Yeah.
Maybe there he gave anytime, he's been famous people plenty of times.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives autographs. Do people later be like, oh, that's a fake autograph, that's not their signature?
I mean, probably. Stevie wants to play with Sam's guns, but Lucy doesn't want that. She gets called away by her boss, and Sam is instructed to take the boy home.
Her boss, which is the bartender, by the way. She
Russ.
works at the saloon, which is currently, they're doing this whole thing. It's the centennial of the town, which is what they're doing. So they're doing reenactment. So everybody's in 1800s Western garb. She's dressed up as a saloon girl working at the saloon.
Sam takes a look at his mirror image, played by Paul Boardman. I expected to look at this man's page and see a bunch of Westerns on his page, but he only has 4 different credits.
He has 4 credits, yeah.
None of which are Westerns.
No, there was a movie called Hollywood Hot Tubs.
I don't know anything about that.
I don't know anything about that, but that name sounded interesting.
Mm.
It's funny, because sometimes the mirror images are actors that have done a lot, and then sometimes they're just
nobodies.
Oh, you must have been somebody we just pulled off the street.
Probably. So on the way home, they run into the guy playing the sheriff. They ran
into the sheriff.
Yeah.
Not the guy playing the sheriff. He is the sheriff of this town.
Oh, okay. So he's an actual sheriff.
Yes, he's an actual sheriff. This is the person they're later looking to arrest. The guy.
Okay.
But he is in, Old West garb for the thing.
Gotcha.
But yes, he is the sheriff of the town.
He accuses Sam of making everything up. He's played by Jerry Porter, who was in the Wild Wild West.
Yes.
Misery. And an episode of Briscoe County Jr.
And I've also got, he was in 4 episodes of Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did stuff.
Misery was a possibility for what we would have covered on Halloween month, but I don't think we were going to end up doing that. After some words and Stevie roasting him.
Yeah, so the sheriff's basically calling Sam's host Tyler a liar. He's got a thing against Tyler.
Yeah.
There's some vendetta here. He calls him a liar. He's nothing but a drunk. And of course, Stevie's standing up for his grandfather. But yeah, there's tension. We're seeing this great tension between the sheriff and this grandfather.
And we will see it throughout the rest of the
Yeah.
episode. So they go home, and Stevie wants to play with Sam's guns, but Sam is like, well, for now, we're going to listen to your mother.
Although, he lets the kid carry the gun upstairs for him. He just promised Lucy he wouldn't let Stevie anywhere near the gun, but then he's like, well, sure, you can take it upstairs and put it away.
So Al appears 7 minutes and 16 seconds into the episode, complimenting his hat.
Yes.
And gives Sam the rundown.
It's November 28th, 1957, and this is where we learn he is a 82-year-old man, Tyler Means of Coffin, Arizona.
And Sam keeps reading the book to get the information, and Al is like, do you want me to give you the information, or do you want to read about it?
And this book is what it is. It's a Reader's Digest.
Yes.
And so the article's been published in Reader's Digest about Tyler's life, and this is what, the kids were having autographed. Apparently the town took, so it's their centennial, so it must have been founded in 1857, but it took off in the 1870s when they discovered silver in the town, which again feels like, we just kind of borrowed this plot line for Salvation or Bust. It wasn't silver, I think it was copper.
Something along those lines, yeah.
But yeah, that's what we did. We put the town on the map by discovering, some element. So I thought that was funny, a funny fact that was in there. But yeah, so the town went on the map, and there were 4 gunslingers, the Claggett brothers, and they ran the town, and Tyler and his partner, which we do know at this point there's a partner, Al mentions him, although not by name, they saved the town. So somewhere in the real history, we know that it wasn't just Tyler.
Right.
Even though, according to this Reader's Digest article, it was just Tyler. There's no mention of the partner. So I don't know what Ziggy's reading that's different than this article, but...
Maybe the after the fact. Maybe it's the obituary, but she's not going to bother to tell anybody that. So Tyler Means became a drunk, spinning stories, only gaining credibility when he met this magazine writer.
Right.
But otherwise, he has no other information, so Al is useless as always.
As always, yeah. Ziggy's running slow.
Right. Al leaves. Sam goes to the saloon where he gets a hero's welcome. And Lucy is talking to Mr. Steiner, who wants to make a television program for NBC.
Yeah, so Ben Steiner works for NBC.
Hey, by the way, Tyler, I would not do this. This man works for NBC. Your show gets canceled after 6 episodes. Don't do it.
Yeah, so NBC wants to make a Western, which this is period appropriate.
Yeah.
Right around this time is when NBC was looking to make a Western, and you know what they made? They made Bonanza.
Okay.
So that's appropriate. So Ben Steiner's played by Kenneth Tiger?
That was my best guess. He was in the episode of Star Trek Voyager, The X-Files, and the pilot episode of Lois and Clark. He has 179 credits for him. He's quite old, but he is still acting. I think he's like 30s.
He was also in an episode of Next Generation I have.
Oh, okay.
In addition to Voyagers.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
He was in 15 episodes of The Man in the High Castle.
Okay.
Which is just, that's just a few years old.
That's a recent show, right?
Yeah. So it's a few years old now, but recent compared to Quantum Leap.
Right, well, yeah.
That's an interesting show.
You mentioned it a couple times.
Yeah, anyone who likes history, it's about what's it called? Different history. There's a word for that.
Alternate history?
Alternate history? Is that the word? I feel like there's a different word
so it's
I'm
like
looking for.
An alternate reality kind of deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where basically the concept is that the U.S. lost World War II.
Okay.
And that's the world that we're living in.
Gotcha.
In Man in
so
the
it's
High
basically
Castle.
like Sliders, except it's taking one of those concepts and going serious.
And that's
wide.
the whole, right.
Gotcha.
Although it does eventually delve into multiple universes.
Okay.
A little bit. So there is sci-fi to it. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Okay.
It's kind of, it's very heavy though.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing humorous happening there.
Oh, well. Sam ends up agreeing to the deal, but then Al shows up warning Sam that he needs to get out of town. Sam makes the excuse of having him take a nap to get out of this meeting. And Al is admiring a woman, and I'm pretty sure that as he's doing this, as he's looking at the woman, we see his partner, Pat Knight, riding in.
Yes. Yeah, we get a shot of him. Like, once you know what's happening in this episode, you definitely notice him. He's there right in the background.
So Al tells Sam that his host has a 16% chance of telling a straight story. He's told that he's going to get shot at noon tomorrow. Sam asks who would want to shoot him, and a very helpful stranger answers, me. And we see an elderly gentleman smoking a cigar. Knight is played by John Anderson. I've already mentioned that. He has 245 credits for him.
A lot of credits.
Bakula and him previously worked together on I-Man. That was actually according to the Internet Movie Database. He was in the Star Trek The Next Generation episode The Survivors, as well as a movie called 8 Men Out and the original Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho. I caught that one. That seemed interesting to me that he was in that.
And he was in 3 episodes of Bonanza. I gave more information on him than I typically would.
Tons of Westerns.
Yeah.
So you're looking for somebody who, character Western actor, this is him. He did tons and tons of Westerns throughout multiple decades, including 12 episodes of Gunsmoke. Which is the one I specifically honed in on.
So he died on August 7th, 1992, about 8 months after this episode aired. But still, it was not his last credit. This is Sam's former partner. He has a beef with Tyler because of the Reader's Digest article claiming he killed the Claggett boys himself. He tells Sam that his mistake was assuming he was dead. Well, he missed that only by a small margin.
Yeah, but we don't learn yet what he's upset about. We learn that later, that it's about him not claiming him.
He does say in the scene that his mistake was assuming that he was dead.
Right, but Sam doesn't know what his beef is with Tyler. The fact that Tyler omitted him from this article is the problem, but we don't really know that's the issue yet. So Lucy is calling for the sheriff to arrest him, and of course the sheriff's not on Sam's side, not on Tyler's side. So he doesn't care. He's like, I don't see him doing anything illegal. Threatening to kill a man. I mean, that's not illegal.
It's not.
The sheriff. We already did we talk about? Yeah, we talked about him already.
Talk about him.
But this is where Lucy calls the sheriff Russ.
Okay.
She says, Russ, arrest him. Now, she's not telling the bartender to go arrest him. The bartender's name is Russ.
Maybe she got confused.
So this is where I was like, what?
Right.
What's happening? Is that a mistake? Are the credits wrong? So this is where I dug a little deeper than IMDb.
Did we talk to our best friend, Brian Green?
I consulted with Matt Dale.
Okay.
I did check beyond the mirror image.
Did you get a Ouija board?
I consulted via, the 800-page reference on my desk, which I don't look at every episode because it's a little tedious to dig that deep. But according to Beyond the Mirror Image, the sheriff's name was Russ Packard. And that is not in the credits, but it is from the original draft script.
Okay.
So it didn't land in the credits. In the credits, he's only sheriff.
Okay.
But in the original script, the sheriff's name was Russ Packard. So Lucy calling the sheriff Russ was appropriate. It came from the script somewhere.
Okay.
Now, I think somewhere along the line, they messed up by crediting the bartender as Russ.
Right.
Because his name's never mentioned anywhere.
Right.
Like, in the episode, the bartender's never called Russ. But in credits everywhere, he's just listed as Russ.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I don't think they literally named two characters Russ when writing the script.
Right. So the bartender's name is probably not actually Russ.
Right, but that's how he ended up O'Neill Compton ended up credited as Russ.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not confusing or anything.
Not confusing at all.
No.
So that's why, I had to bring it up because it was confusing. I was like, what is going on?
So he challenges Sam to a gunfight while the townspeople have gathered to watch what's going on, including Steiner. The sheriff is amused. Steiner, not so much. Stevie is excited. His mother less so. Bets start being made, but Sam insists that there will not be a fight. Alone, Sam asks what Tyler has to say for himself, and he's not very helpful. He's hitting on the nurses who are giving him sponge baths or something along those lines.
Yeah, he said he wants another physical.
Right. When he gets killed, the TV show is canceled, and Lucy struggles.
Right. So in the original history, he's going to die tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The TV deal is, not going to go through because of that. And so I quoted this because I thought this was a ridiculous quote. Stevie grows up, runs away from home, and becomes a hood. That's the quote.
Right.
Poor Stevie.
Yeah. Do we say that about people, that they become hood? I mean, I guess that's like, slang of some kind, but it doesn't seem appropriate for Al to be using it.
Yeah, I think this is one of those out of time phrases.
Gotcha.
It also felt contradictory that he grows up and then runs away from home.
Right.
Don't you run away from home before you grow up?
Usually.
Like, I don't know. The whole thing just felt a little like a kind of a kooky line. I feel like they're running out of ways to describe how bad things happen to people.
Right. So Stevie ends up in and out of jail. Meanwhile, Stevie and Lucy comes in. Stevie's all excited. Lucy doesn't want him to fight, and he makes up a story about how he was offered money to kill Knight. And she mentions that this was never mentioned to her. And he's like, well, there's... and she also mentions that there's a lot of things that he never really told her.
We also... Sam asked about Stevie's father.
Mm-hmm.
And Al says that his name was Peter Means, which confused me. Peter died in World War II. I thought, every time I've seen this, up until this moment when I'm taking notes, that Lucy was Tyler's daughter. And she's not.
Oh, yeah.
Because the father was Peter Mean. So that means that was Tyler's son.
Right.
So Lucy's just his daughter-in-law.
Yeah, I never quite got that either.
I never figured that out.
And in fact...
until this moment, taking these notes. And I was like, oh, I guess that's why she never calls him Dad.
Right.
She calls him T. And
right.
that makes sense, because she's not his daughter. But I completely, my whole life, thought this was his daughter.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually didn't know until you just told me now that wasn't the case. We get the sense that Tyler Means is not very good at keeping his word to Lucy, that he says a bunch of things that are going to happen and they never do.
Right.
Lucy goes to make dinner. Sam decides to go and talk to Pat Knight to end this thing. He sits at the saloon and gets details of what Knight's beef is.
And refuses to drink, by the way, which everybody thinks is so out of character for him, because he's not drinking.
So Sam apologizes for whatever he did, and Knight asks him, are you going to give up the TV deal as well? You know what's interesting to me, and it never really occurred to me, that these two men were like legends before TV was even a thing.
Oh, sure. TV's brand new.
Yeah.
It's 1957.
Yeah.
Like, TV's only been mainstream for 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. And only in existence for, like, a decade.
Right.
Yeah, the concepts of, this NBC wanting to make a Western TV series, that's novel.
Yeah.
There's only been Western movies so far.
I suppose Tyler is okay, getting a deal with NBC at this point to make a Western, because it's not like it's a sci-fi show or anything like that.
But no, literally, they're talking about the first Western television series. Mm-hmm. It's a brand new concept. They've never done this before.
Right.
It's a huge deal.
Right.
The idea of signing the show's huge. This isn't like, nowadays where they're just making some pilot. It's a big deal.
Right.
In 1957 to make the first Western television series.
Right. So Sam asks, what would he do that for? And Knight ends up laughing, and it's a beautiful laugh.
And this is because Sam doesn't comprehend
Yeah.
what Pat's problem is.
Right.
He doesn't get the scope of the situation. That Tyler is not the one that killed these guys.
Right.
The entire story is fabricated.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he's the one who's about to, monopolize from it.
Right. Knight laughs and tells him he hasn't changed a bit. And they start drinking together and reminiscing. Well, only one of them is really reminiscing.
So they're drinking because Pat challenges him to a drinking contest. Mm-hmm. And, Al tells Sam he better do it because they're thinking this is going to get them out of the duel. We're going to have a drinking contest instead, like men. We're going to be friends and we're going to have a drinking contest. And Pat said the last man standing is the winner. So, we're going to, just get alcohol poisoning instead of, lead poisoning.
So, deep into this, Sam tries to end this thing thanks to his newfound bonding with Knight. But Knight says he can't. It's a matter of pride.
Right. So,
honor.
He didn't mean we're going to do this instead of the gunfight. He just meant we're going to do this before we kill each other.
Right, yeah.
We're going to bond. And this whole scene's really funny because Sam is, telling stories about this past he doesn't know.
He knows nothing
so
about.
So he's literally just making crap up.
Yep.
And it's so funny to watch.
Yeah. Sam jokes, wondering if Knight can hit him. And Knight demonstrates his skills by blowing away a couple of bottles that include some alcohol that someone was pouring.
You're all the way... Oh, no, okay.
Okay.
Never mind. Keep going.
So he says he can reckon he can do that. And so he still has his skills, even drunk, by the way. So he goes drunkenly home.
Yeah, Sam's very drunk, stumbling home. I don't think we've ever seen him intoxicated like this.
No, not like this. And he runs into Stevie and tries to give him some drunken advice, and it's pretty funny. to watch the scene because he's really bad at giving him advice in this scene. So Al thinks that perhaps he should familiarize himself with Mean's gun. Sam thinks he's going to get Knight thrown in jail. Nope. Al suggests an ambush, which Sam doesn't seem to want to go for. The next morning he has a hangover and does some target practice. Al brings up another one of his love trysts where he learned to shoot, apparently.
Yeah, it was a stripper in New Orleans named Fifi Boom Boom Leroux, and she taught him how to shoot a gun because, of course, Al is good at shooting a gun.
Right. And that's
think he'd have learned in the military how to shoot a gun.
No, he learned from, a stripper at a quick draw, like in the West. So Sam tries to practice. It doesn't go very well. Knight shows up and gives Sam some tips and calls Sam pathetic. Sam tries to talk Knight down. Knight says that he was was the one that killed the Claggett boys, and that the only thing he did was make the boys duck. Sam suggests it might have been an ambush. Knight admits to a few of them being an ambush, but he got the other couple fair and square.
Yeah, and either way, he's saying, well, Tyler, you didn't do it.
Right, yeah.
Either way, your stories are worse than, my stories.
Right. Knight didn't stick around in town because he went and comforted Ruthie, the younger sister. And, basically that was a long comforting.
Yeah, we get the insinuation that perhaps he settled down with her, or, she convinced him to change his ways of life, and he never returned to Coffin. Al thinks this sounds like a very interesting story.
Yeah, for instance, where is Ruthie now?
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, this sounds like Al's type of story, but also this is kind of hinting like, oh, maybe, his stories would be a good addition to the television show.
Right, yeah.
Because obviously he's got some stories.
Mm-hmm. Sam asks him if pride is worth killing for, and Knight says, what the heck else did we ever have? So Stevie finds Sam prepared not to fight Knight, and he gets upset and tells him the whole town is going to know he's a coward. Sam insists to Al, and Stevie runs off somewhere. Sam insists to Al that he is not going to go to this
Yeah, he's
fight.
like, I'm just not going to go. He can't kill me if I don't show up.
So Sam is still sitting there. He's not accomplishing anything. So
he suggests just running away.
Yeah.
Like Stevie had, been scared he was going to do. But Al says it's not going to work.
Well, at first he says he dies at old age.
It will work as far as he won't die today. It says he'll die at age 95. So that's another 13 years. So he'll be good. But Stevie still runs away, goes to jail, except now Stevie gets killed in a bar fight.
Right.
So Stevie's life's even worse if your grandfather's a coward than if he got killed.
Right. So Sam wonders if he could outdraw Knight. So this is really weirdly written because at first he's like, I'm not doing this, and then he changes his mind to maybe I can outdraw him because I'm like a much younger man than he is.
Right. Ziggy gives it only a 17% chance that he can draw as fast as Pat. And yeah, this is where the resolution of this episode doesn't make much sense to me.
No, that is a weakness of the episode in that it gets resolved way too easily.
It gets resolved weirdly.
Yeah.
It needed a twist, I think, at the end that we don't get.
So Sam decides he's going to go for his gun. We're at the saloon now. Everyone is watching the time, like a typical Western.
And Pat's playing poker by himself.
Yes, and the sheriff says there's no law against playing poker by yourself. We see Stevie has snuck out with Tyler's gun, and he goes to confront Knight. Stevie tells him that his grandpa is not a liar. Steiner wants to put a stop to this. The sheriff looks like he's going to get involved, but Knight kind of just waves him off. Stevie says he's...
Yeah, in other words, like, I'm not going to hurt the kid.
But it's a lie because he does end up hurting the kid, at least in the new timeline that's been created.
Sure, but he's not like...
He's not setting out to do it.
Yeah.
Stevie says he's 12. Knight says he was 15 when he killed his first man, but I guess he grew up faster nowadays. Sam can't find his gun. Lucy can't find her kid, and they put two and two together and realize what's going on.
Right.
Al shows up to watch the scene.
And this is where, Al said, well, Stevie is going to get killed in this, however this does play out. But he wasn't about to get killed, like, that minute.
Right. Knight says he has no quarrel with Stevie. Stevie says Knight is a liar. Sam shows up and gets the gun from Stevie just as the clock strikes noon. And Knight says, you're just on time, but underdressed as usual. Because I think he's, like, in his pajamas or something. Sam gets ready to face off against Knight and says, I guess sometimes you can't avoid your fate. And Knight says, sometimes you can't. Russ gives him the gun hanging up as an ornament.
Yeah, so this is like Tyler's original gun, I'm assuming, that's locked up in like a display case. Mm-hmm. This is the gun that he supposedly killed the Claggett brothers with, even though he didn't.
Right. So they go out into the street, and Sam is now dressed up. I'm not sure where he found time to get dressed into the suit.
I'm thinking everything he's wearing came out of that cabinet.
Oh,
with
really?
The gun. Like,
Okay.
this is his original, like, outfit.
See, I thought it was just the gun, but yeah.
It was definitely the gun, but yeah, I'm thinking all of it came out of there.
So the town is watching. Al says he's going to come up with a clever idea, and Sam says sometimes there isn't a clever way out. The clock does not strike. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. They draw, and Sam gets gunned. His gun pointed at Knight before.
Yeah, Sam gets the draw.
Yeah.
So because Sam got the draw, no shots are fired.
Right. He doesn't end up firing, which is, I don't think how this would play out. I think Knight would have kept going, even if Sam
he would have been like, "Oh, you got the draw, but you hesitated, so
Right.
I'm still going to shoot you."
Right. I think that's how it would have played out. But
yeah, it's just Sam gets the draw, and Pat just kind of surrenders.
Yeah,
I guess,
so.
and Sam wins,
Right.
without any bloodshed.
So the town celebrates.
The bartender announces drinks around the house.
He tells Knight that didn't mean anything. Knight says it did to them, and Sam offers to make it up to him. He gets him a consulting role on the show. Steiner says, he just tried to kill you. And Sam says, once partners, always partners, which is something that has come up multiple times in this episode. Sam suggests even a part in the TV show. And Knight asks him if Steiner has a problem with that, and he winks at Sam, and then Sam ends up leaping. And that is where the episode ends.
And that is where the episode ends. So yeah, it was way too easy of a resolution, I think.
Yeah, that's
we spent this whole thing like, oh, there's only a 16% chance that you can draw as fast as him, and we already learned he can't.
Right.
But then he just does.
Right.
And it's all resolved.
Well, not only that, but I don't think him just pointing the gun at him faster is going to resolve anything.
Right.
Because I think
because there was already such
shout.
tension. Like,
Yeah.
he wanted to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And we already know he doesn't have integrity.
Right.
Because he ambushed the Claggett boys and killed
Right.
them without, shot him in the back or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, the whole thing's very strange how it resolved. And that's a problem we have with a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Where we spend so much time in the episode and then they're like, oh, how do we resolve this? Let's just resolve it quickly and move on.
Right, yeah.
Without the resolution making a whole lot of sense. Like, what did Sam actually do during this leave that resolved this? He just happened to get lucky and draw fast, and it happened to work.
Right. Yeah, so the ending is weak. Definitely.
The ending's weak, but, they didn't care about that. They just cared about making a Western. And they were happy with it, so I'm happy for them.
Yes,
right?
Yes, of course.
Happy for the people that made the show because they were giddy to do this.
Right.
And let's see. So he leaps in. He's into the
Song for a Soul.
Song for a Soul. So he's a teenage black female singing "My Boyfriend's Back."
Yes.
That's a fun episode.
I barely remember it.
It's one that I love because of the music.
It just never really appealed to me, so I skipped it upon rewatches. But yeah, I don't really remember much about the episode, other than the fact that Eric LaSalle is in the episode.
That name doesn't mean anything to me.
Eric LaSalle
I'm terrible with names.
was a regular on ER.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a fun one. I'm looking forward to watching it. Just because, like I said, I love the music. It's in the early 60s. Like, that's, the 50s and the early 60s music. That's my sweet spot.
Well, for me, it's basically like a new episode because I have not watched it much.
All right, so I look forward to us being able to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's, one of the silly ones where we get to see Sam in a dress.
Yeah. And yeah, it should be a fun time.
And we get to see him dancing. Middle-aged white man.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be entertaining.
It's not great.
No?
He's not very good at it.
And I'm sure
they're a little worried about the girl he leaped into.
I'm sure he's better than me. All I can do is the Carlton, which I've demonstrated on this channel a couple of times. But all right, do we have anything else to say about this episode?
I think we covered everything. I just double checked. We did hit all of the cast already.
All right.
And yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
If you like Westerns.
Yeah. All right, so Stacie can be reached at...
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. You can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel. And there's something else.
Hitting the bell notification.
Hitting the bell notification so that you get notified when new content drops. And yeah, that's it. All right. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions signing off.